Okay, third and final video on this as we approach, we'll take some areas and approach completion. I've added white pencil and I assessed the piece and I thought it was too linear, a little bit almost like a wood grain, and I wanted to change that. So I went in with white through this area and just broke up that linear pattern. And now, because I have a lot of layering on here, I'm actually going to reestablish this linear pattern using, believe it or not, this is a 70. And if you look at how dark it is on white, look at how it's not that dark now when I put it on the marker and pencil combined. This is a characteristic of rendering in markers and pencil. The more layering you get down, the less contrast the markers have as they go down. So this 70 looks like about a 40. And I just laid it on top of the combination of the pencil and the marker, and because there's a lot of pencil here, I can actually blend in even easier. Now there's a point where that's too much. You start to get this, I guess, overly smooth surface because the texture of the paper is getting lost, and it starts to get impossible to make good changes. So that's where you kind of dig in with the eraser and get back down to the paper. I'm stopping short of that. I'm actually very close to finishing this area. And I've got a lot of good layering working to get that luminosity going, and this is really some texturing at the very end of the process. So now I want to vary the color a bit more. So I'm using patterns, different patterns, a little bit of kind of stipple, some of it's more like strokes. And why not darken it a little bit more up here? It actually is in the reference, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's darken the ears. And you can see this is way too light now. That used to be the darkest part of the whole object, and now look at it, it's actually in mid-tone. So I'm going to drop some tone in there and also on the front of the nose to get us in the right place. Down the front side there. The front right now looks great. Contrast between the two sides looks really good. Let's bring some information down into the bottom. And I will tell you that I would probably approach this render a little differently because I've learned a few things as I've been rendering it, and I probably would have gone darker with my tones as my base tones before going in with pencil. You know, you can always learn something new on a render. That's why I will do swatches, just to kind of get a feel for how a render should go. I did not do it here. I'm actually literally doing it in my demo. But that's fine. I mean, it helps you to see how you can adjust and adapt in your rendering. So I feel like I'm getting more of the quality that I want to see in this marble after I've layered with pencil and marker more completely. And I'm not going to put any cracks into this one. I've shown you how to do that. In a couple of different lectures we've talked about that. And you saw how to do it on the stone mouse if you rendered that. Which is why I have you do the stone mouse exercise, because it really prepares you for this kind of textured rendering. You have the additional challenge with the stone mouse is you have actually lots of cracks, but you also have a surface texture to work with. And it's really kind of cool to keep enhancing your skills by challenging yourself to do more complex renders. To me personally, I love doing a very weathered marble, like a Greek sculpture, more so than doing a really polished, refined marble, because all that grit and texture is just wonderful to get into, and it's actually more forgiving. And after all that, here we go again, back to white pencil. And now you notice I'm pushing. This is like final stages. I'm actually pushing and mashing that paper a little bit because I'm really at the end game now with the render. Putting a little bit of that blotchy quality into it. And then once again, if I feel it needs to be smoothed back a bit, this surface is really complex and interesting because it's both smooth and detailed at the same time. I just blend. I'm using a 10, by the way, not a blender. Like I say, the markers do show much lighter. A 10 doesn't even make a dent anymore. It doesn't even darken. But I will stop there. I think that gives you a pretty good idea of process on rendering marble.